G'day guys, it's Amiga back with another video. Hey, just reflecting after Manchester. I've been talking about having an honest conversation about Islam, and it really is a conversation that needs to be had. And I think one of the greatest problems that we actually have is that people don't actually understand the theology of Islam. The left, I don't know, the left just hands down refuse to even enter into a discussion about the subject because of this false narrative that, Islam is, not an ideology, not a religion, but it's a race. And I think inherently they do this because deep down they know that that's actually, that they can't answer the hard questions. Deep down, they actually know that this is quite a poisonous ideology. And the thing that people need to understand about Islam is an ideology of conquest. That is how it is geared. It is geared and it's built around the idea of conquest and spreading by force. And then once it gets into an area, it's talking about building a theocracy. And that theocracy has complete control, and that's where the submission aspect of Islam comes in. Everyone is expected to submit, and there are a few different ways they do this. They implement taxes on people. They've got violent jihad. They infiltrate the system, and it just, so on and so forth. And if you look at history, people who are ignorant of history are, some of the dumbest people I know, but history dictates that this is, something which has happened over and over and over again in many different countries. This is, part of the issue, that people are just not being honest about the true form of Islam. Obviously, we have the Hadiths, which come along with the Quran, and the Hadiths chronicle the life of the Prophet Muhammad, and all throughout this blood-soaked chronicle, the violent conquests of the Prophet Muhammad, the violent implementation of Sharia law. That's why we've got beheadings and hands and feet being cut off, and Christians and Jews being slaughtered, and all this sort of stuff. It's a chronicle of the actual implementation of Islam. And the problem is people, a lot of Muslim homes have the Hadith right next to the Quran, and when they read the Hadith, it gives them a picture of the life of the Prophet Muhammad, and is basically held up as an example as basically the most perfect way to live out Islam. And here's the other big issue is, there are a lot of Muslims who I basically tantamount to your Sunday pew sitters. They don't want to be involved in violence. They don't want to be involved in jihad. They just want to live a peaceful life, but they want to be free to practice their faith. Now, the big issue is, in the theology of Islam, the martyrs, those that commit jihad, are actually held up in very high prestige. So if you're basically a Sunday pew sitter in Islam, you're actually looked down upon. And for somebody who is, for somebody who basically sits back and dobs in a jihadist or a terrorist, is actually viewed largely by the theology as a traitor to Islam. The other problem is there's taqiyya, and this has been a very, very successful part of Islam which has been implemented in the West. Obviously, we all know that the left have become an engine, have become an aiding and abetting, they've become a helper to radical Islam. And one of the reasons that's been so successful is because Muslims are free to lie for the furtherance of Islam. It's not like other religions where it's a sin to lie in any circumstance. They are free to lie for the furtherance of Islam. So they will blatantly lie about the truth, the truth that, there is actually a concerted effort occupy an area or to take it over or to implement Sharia law. They will tell people that that's absolutely not the case, that that's not what's happening. But the truth is that's exactly what's happening. And all the Muslims who are watching it understand fully what's going on. They understand this person is committing taqiyya, and then they sit back and laugh because all the Westerners don't really understand what's going on. I mean, this is why when that guy walked into a gay nightclub and murdered all those people, the wife was coming out saying he was gay and all the rest of it because she knew Islam was getting a bad rap, so she committed taqiyya to try and distance that guy from Islam for the sake and the protection of Islam. So that's another one of the big issues. So I think, we really have to come to terms with what Islam is. I mean, there are sects of Islam. There's one guy in Australia right now, and he's a reformer. And the reason I respect this guy is because he is probably going to die. He's not like a lot of YouTubers who are hiding behind fake names, not like a lot of us who, have got all these layers of protection. This guy's putting his name out there. He's putting his face out there. He's saying, I want Sharia law banned in Australia. I want the hadiths removed from Australia. I want mosques monitored. I want to see where all the money's coming from, going to certain imams. He's talking about a whole raft of measures to be implemented. He's talking about people being jailed for pledging allegiance to ISIS, and he's talking about a whole raft of things. But he is as far left as you can possibly get. I've even heard him say that he would even accept a female imam. So he's basically like the equivalent to your lesbian Anglican priest, if you like. But, hats off to the guy. He's coming out, he's telling the truth. He was on an interview on live TV the other day, and he says, this guy who is, a representative of Islam in Australia, recognised by the government, is doing nothing but committing taqiyya. And he said that on national TV, and he said a whole range of other stuff. He says he doesn't want mosques built, etc., etc. He's got a very compatible version of Islam, but to be honest, it's not the real version of Islam. And I know on my channel, people have been saying that, Amiga, that Islam is Islam, and they are 100% correct. Like, this guy is not, it's not actually real Islam, what he's espousing. If you read the text, if you read the holy books, he's departed from the theology. These are just some thoughts. I think, how do we get the left to understand that this is actually a religion of conquest? That is a good question. How do we actually get people to wake up to that fact? And I think honest and open conversations have to happen after Manchester. It has to happen. This needs to be the first step. And then, as I've said in my previous video, serious security measures need to be taken. And there are a few issues with all this. I mean, how far do we take security measures? Are the government using Islam to try and implement heavier security measures for like a police state takeover? We have all these interest groups that are manipulating the grand scheme of things for their own ends in the midst of all this. So it's a real mishmash. But I think the first step is people actually understanding what pure Islam is. And, just things like when we talk about moderate Islamic countries, Saudi Arabia is not a moderate Islamic country. It's not. If they've implemented a kind of Sharia law there, they behead people, they beat people, they treat women like dogs. That's not moderate by any stretch of the imagination. Indonesia, last week, has been caning gays, which has been getting a lot of attention in the media. But what people don't know is that there were 5 other couples caned on that same day for kissing and hugging in public. That's not moderate. If you go to a country and you insult the Prophet Muhammad and you're put to death for it, that's not moderate. We need to call things for what they are. We need a bit of truth. I'll be back soon with another video. I'm thinking about some possible solutions and possible ways, forward after everything that's happened. If you want to comment. That's Omega signing out. I'll be back soon with another video. Cheers.